Hello. After spending over a decade in China, I have witnessed China change in a myriad of amazing, drastic ways. In this video, I'm going to cover top 10 ways that China has changed according to me. However, it absolutely will not be the obvious answers: high-speed rail, mobile payments, things of that nature. No, that is far too easy. Today, we're going to talk about the top 10 relatively obscure ways that I find that China has changed in the last 12 years. Let's do it. Let's start with men's fashion. Anybody who came to China about a decade ago saw this shirt. It was on about 1/3 of all men aged 30 or younger. More respect, less attack. Beautiful feather everywhere. It was almost like a standard state issued uniform. And if they weren't wearing the more respect, less attack t-shirt, then it was a Lincoln Park t-shirt or Kinkin Park or something variation of that. Seriously, it felt like about half of the young adult male population was wearing one of these two shirts a decade ago. Now I gotta say, it's quite rare to see either. Quick aside, the first ever piece of clothing that I bought online in China was a more respect, less attack t-shirt. I think it was double XL, but I cannot be certain. It was at that time that I learned that Chinese t-shirts run extremely small compared to the standard American t-shirt. Now I only wear quadruple X t-shirts in China. Coffee shops. Outside of Shanghai and other tier 1 cities, it was absolute hell to find a cup of coffee in the early 2010s. Shoot, even within major cities, it was often hard to find a cafe sometimes. When I first came to China, anytime I went to a new city, I would look up cafes near my hotel. And inevitably, the cafe that popped up was Shangdao Coffee, aka UBC Coffee. This chain was the only coffee chain that was everywhere. It was ubiquitous. And it was almost assuredly on the second floor of some nondescript, decaying tower or shopping center. It was always up some weird dark set of stairs across from an empty or an abandoned set of shops that were all chained shut. You'd walk into UBC, Shangdao Coffee, it would be dark and dingy, lit with some weird lamps, and it had plush sofas, very strange Western aesthetic. You could order a very mediocre coffee for something like 40 RMB, and if you were hungry, it got even worse. You'd get some really bad, reheated steak and fries, just awful, brutal. Thankfully, 2024, you can pretty much spin around and point in any direction in China, and you're going to land on 2 coffee shops somehow. Not only that, but they're almost always going to be really good, and often way cheaper than Shangdao ever was. Now you can get a great cup of coffee for something like 20 RMB or even maybe 10 RMB in pretty much every corner of China. Amazing. I know at the start of this, I said I wouldn't talk about mobile payments, and I meant that, but this next change kind of touches on that anyway. Almost every restaurant now has a QR code that you scan when you want to order. This is super convenient, super easy, we know this already, but the real change, the real progress that has been made is how quiet it has made eating out at restaurants. It used to be you'd go to a restaurant, every 30 seconds you would hear someone in the restaurant shout, 服务员 or 服务员 or 美女. Now you just scan the QR code, the waitress will come to you. Way less yelling, way less screaming, much more civilized. And moving even beyond that, you also don't see people standing at the cash register fighting over the bill like they used to. You just scan and you pay at the table. Instead of a big open fight that everybody in the restaurant can see, now you just secretly scan the QR code and you make the payment while your friend isn't looking. Isn't technology grand? Again, I don't want to talk about the mobile phone too much, and it's kind of boring to me, but there is simply no getting around how much the phone has changed China in the past decade. China used to operate like this. If you wanted a handyman to come and fix a pipe, or a locksmith to come and pop open a door, or just some random Nongmin to come and help you move your belongings to a new apartment when you want to move, you would simply go outside your house, wander around for a few minutes, until you found a group of dudes hanging out in a corner. They'd be lounging on a sanluncha, just chilling, playing cards, doing whatever. You'd go find them, negotiate a price, and they would come help you. Or on the other hand, you would just open your window and then wait until you hear the guy on the bike with the recording blaring super loud. You know the recording, the one that goes something like this. 手空调, 电脑, 电视机, 冰箱. Well, I never hear that anymore. That's all pretty much changed, you know? You just go on WeChat, you type in what you need, and there will be a mini program ready to send a shufu to come and help you fix your problem. Noise pollution. Number 7 and number 8 already kind of addressed this, but overall, China is just way more quiet than it ever used to be. Drivers will honk less, cars are quieter, fewer businesses are willing to stick a loudspeaker out by their front door and blare electronic dance music while a person stands at the door and shouts nonsense about mai yi song yi, or even worse, a recording of somebody saying nonsense about mai yi song yi. Overall, China is just a way more pleasant place for your auditory sensibilities than it ever used to be. Let's go back to fashion, and this time let's take a look at women's fashion. And oh man, where do we even begin? Chinese girls all used to have a fringe or bangs for us American viewers, and under that fringe was thick rim glasses without lenses, empty frames, no glass. I don't mean just a few girls look like this. No. This was the style. You had to look like this. It was everyone everywhere. You know how I said 1/3 of all men were wearing more respect, less attack t-shirts? Well, almost 2/3 of all girls probably had a thick fringe and glasses with no glass. And not only that, but they also used to dress like they were from the Victorian era. They would have weird, lacy, conservative collars. In general, women just used to dress very conservatively compared to how they dress now. This has shifted tremendously, especially in the past few years, or maybe it's Xiaohongshu, but now women are definitely not shy to show off their assets. You're gonna see exposed doopy all the time, or legs, or other parts of women. You guys know what they look like. I don't need to explain this to you. Anyway, I'm not really a fashionista. I don't know about style. Maybe I'm wrong. This one I'm actually very curious to hear people's feedback on. How has women's fashion changed in China in the past decade? I want some insight into what has happened and why. Chengguan. This one is probably most highly dependent on your location. Some cities is probably very different from but from what I've seen, Chengguan, or the city management, they used to be these brutal, petty tyrants. They would go around the neighborhood, destroying food stalls, just generally upending the lives of local people who are just trying to get by and make a little bit of money. It was terrible. Every other day, a new video would go viral online of some poor, hapless villager getting their shit wrecked by local bullies. Their livelihood was gone in an instant. And these guys aren't even police, they're just city management. Nowadays, however, things seem to have changed. Not only are, most food vendors gone, I guess, thanks to the Chengguan, but those that still remain, they seem to have a weird, decent working relationship with the Chengguan, at least from an outsider's perspective. I recall many a time in the past where I'd be eating at a food stall and someone would shout, "Chengguan, Chengguan 来了," and all the vendors would pull up stakes and they'd leave, push their food cart away as fast as possible, running down the street with their fried rice falling everywhere. Now, I recently went to get some fried noodles and I noticed that the food stalls that I like to go to were gone. I thought to myself, oh, I guess Chengguan got to him finally. And I just headed off down the street looking for food elsewhere. But, I turned the corner, and what do you know? Those food vendors I'm used to seeing here were there. They were everywhere. And I asked my local noodle man, hey, what's up with that? What happened? He said, Chengguan. I told him, yeah, okay, but you only moved about 50 meters, just around the corner. What gives? And he said, yeah, I had no problem actually. Chengguan just asked us to move to this street for a while because someone over there complained. So it seems that Chengguan are a lot more tolerant these days. I never see videos online of them beating people up. Food vendors seem to be at least somewhat on a working relationship with Chengguan. But again, I bet this is probably highly location dependent. So let me know how it is in your city. Are they still doing what they do, or have they changed? Do people still get smashed in by the Chengguan? Let us know in the comments. Okay, for this next one, you're just gonna have to make do with looking at me because I'm not gonna share any of these videos. But it used to be in China, go on the internet and you would have some insane gory video flash across your screen almost immediately, every day, all the time. You would have videos of people being eaten by escalators or crushed by elevators, hit by a car while they're on their motorcycle and dragged across the road. All the nastiest, most bloody, gory stuff. It was inevitable you would see it. Now, I think that because of the way everything is based on apps now and algorithms, and everybody has kind of siloed off their social media and their internet experience, you don't see that stuff anymore. Plus, probably censorship is quite a bit better. I think probably these videos, of course, will still exist. I don't know. I don't see them anymore. Thank goodness. I don't look for them. But they're probably still available in like private group chats. So anyway, I would just say that the Chinese internet is much more sanitized than it ever used to be. And for number 2, we're going to piggyback off that kind of idea. And this one is one that I'm not 100% sure about. I may be totally off base. So I definitely want Chinese viewers to comment on this one and let me know if I'm right or if I'm wrong. I feel like because, like I mentioned, everybody has their own kind of curated social media persona, their own channels, how they want to appear online. It's a lot more difficult for kind of mundane stories to go insanely viral in China like they used to. Perfect example is the milk tea girl. If you don't know, real quick, milk tea girl, she was just a cute schoolgirl drinking a milk tea, and she went insanely viral, became famous, became, I think, a billionaire. She married the guy from Jingdong simply because she was a cute girl drinking a cup of milk tea. I don't see stories like this ever happening anymore, where it's just like a really basic story, like, because everybody has a platform now. Everybody shares their life all the time. You're not just gonna have a random snap of a person that takes the world by storm. Another kind of similar mundane story that kind of like lives rent free in my head forever. It could just be a dream I had, but I feel like it's a true story. I remember there was a girl in like Hunan or Fujian a long time ago. She was in a flood and she was like walking, or maybe it was a picture of her walking. She had long legs, sexy body, all that good stuff, but you could only see her back. And all the people online were like, did she survive the flood? Is she alive? She's my goddess, my flood goddess, blah, 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 blah. And then after the flood happened, the news crew or somebody found her and they interviewed her. And I'm not going to say she was ugly. People said she was ugly. And they were probably incels, not going to lie. Diaosa is like the Chinese incel kind of. Almost like mad at her for being ugly, right? Like she wasn't the goddess that they had imagined that she was. Whether or not the story is true or happened, I can't even find it online. I searched and searched and searched just for this video because I wanted to talk about it. And I couldn't find it. I don't know what to search for. If anybody in China remembers this story, please leave a comment. Maybe leave a link. I would love to see it again. It was hilarious to me. But I feel like these kind of stories don't happen anymore in China. Just mundane, stupid things that go viral because everybody has their own platform. Everybody has their own algorithm. It just doesn't happen anymore. Let me know. Whew. Okay, we're getting there, guys. But before we get there, let's do 1.5, a little bonus for you. Do you have a QQ zone still? Does QQ Zone still exist? I don't know. I used to have a QQ Zone. It was great. It's basically MySpace if you don't know. You could pimp it out, twinkly stars, pink colors, whatever you wanted. I loved it. It was like a proto version of WeChat Moments. Very, very cool. Drumroll, please. The number one thing that has changed in China in the last decade plus, in my opinion, is dogs. Have you ever been to the Philippines or Thailand? You know how there's street dogs who just rule the streets? They're always lounging about, running around, eating out of the garbage, that sort of thing. Well, in, I don't know, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, China was a lot like that as well. Even Shanghai, even the big cities. You walk around China these days, you would never know it. Chinese street dogs are virtually non-existent in most cities. Now we can debate this all day long about why it was, what has changed, and whether or not culling a bunch of dogs is a good thing, especially if it means that some pets got caught up in the rapture. But we're not going to do it. We're not going to talk about it. Instead, we're just going to say, wow, 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 wow. There are barely any stray dogs, street dogs in China anymore. And not only that, but now all the street dogs are gone, but every single person seems to have a pet dog. And not only do they have a pet dog, but they treat it like it's a member of their family. And that could be because people aren't having babies anymore, which is a sensitive topic here in China. People dress up their dogs in cute clothes, me included. They put little booties on them, shoes. They dye their hair, give them cool haircuts. They treat them like it's their child. Dog cafes are popping up everywhere. There's dog parks. There's dog meetup groups. People love their dogs in China. Dogs went from a potential nuisance, maybe even dangerous part of society, running around the streets, being roving packs of marauders, to now being vital members of the community and of the family, all in a little more than a decade. It's wild how much that has changed. Crazy. So that wraps it up. Those are the top 10 plus a bonus ways China has changed in the last decade or so since I've been living here. What do you think about the list? Anything you want to comment on? Anywhere I'm right, anywhere I'm wrong? Anything you disagree? What do you think is the biggest change in China? Of course, non-WeChat payment, non-high-speed rail variety, because that's too easy. What did I miss? While you're here, please don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and of course, as always, you can support me by giving me money if you choose to do so. Thank you very much. Zai Wei.